we have the balance of the Carroll County Board of Supervisors, Auditor Joan Shetler, Sheriff Doug Bass, and County Attorney John Worden, and members of the public. Good morning once again. We just want to move forward with this furthering the agreement for the tower discussion. And I guess I'll just turn it over to you. We've had just a little brief pre-discussion here, and go ahead and see if there's anything that you need to update us on before we enter into the discussion further.
No, I don't think so. There's been a slight reconfiguration of the compound. I've got some drawings to send to Marty later, just based on information that we received from Mid-American Energy. There's that large transformer that sits on the property. They did not want us blocking that in. They need to be able to get their vehicle to be able to drive directly up to that transformer. So we've got a slight reconfiguration. It doesn't change much for you guys or for future use. So I'll be getting those drawings over to Marty probably later today. But from a contractual perspective, nothing new to update. So I'm just available this morning to answer any questions that you folks may have.
Very well. I will just turn the discussion over to various members of the board that want to have further discussion on some of the details of the contract and clarification on just a few issues. Anybody care to start?
Good morning. This is Neil Bach, member of the Board of Supervisors. And last time we visited, we discussed the option of perhaps starting the rent a little sooner. The way the contract is written, there's 120 months of no rent, and then the rent starts at $18,000 with a 3% increase each year. And also, it's noted that there's a annual 30-day termination clause in it. So we feel we may be setting ourselves up quite a bit of exposure without any return. And we understand that you wanted it this way because of your high initial investment in building the tower. One proposal that was brought up, and no, we have not voted on it, was for anything that for discussion, is it was discussed to have a payment structure of $6,000 per year each year for the first 15 years, and that would have a 2% per year increase. And if my calculations are correct, we would end up at 15 years with approximately the same amount of payments. However, we'd start getting them early. What is your reaction to that possibility?
I think that may be a realistic option. I can't speak 100% for Verizon when it comes to financial decisions, but it's certainly worth my running it past them and getting an answer. It strikes me as being reasonable. It's just a matter of my taking the time to confer with them and making sure that that's something that they can agree to. Okay.
What was done is 15 years with the current contract was compared with 15 years starting at $6,000, increasing 2% each year. And at the end of 15 years, the payments are both within $300. So it just doesn't change the dollar amount very much. It just changes the cash flow and the structure of payments. And you'll find that out if you rehash those figures.
I'll definitely take the time to run that comparison, but it seems to make sense.
Okay. I'll just continue then.
Correct.
Another item that was brought up with our county attorney was the situation that it would be county owned, and it's questionable whether or not it would be taxed, and as it's written it would not be taxed. We would certainly consider and would like to have the property taxes prorated. And by that I mean the county's going to have some equipment on there, so that share would be not be charged property taxes to you, but the balance that you're using would pay regular commercial property taxes as if it was on private property. Did I explain that clearly?
Okay. I'm not certain that you have. We're going to obviously incur the expense of the tower and sign it over or deed it to the county upon its completion. Are you anticipating that we pay some sort of property taxes at that particular point in time?
That was the suggestion, yes. And also clarify, one it looked at one place, one member mentioned it looked like the, but yeah, that's what we're looking at. You paying property taxes on it because of the usage. So, you have a problem with that?
I guess it doesn't make sense to me that the tower itself would be taxed.
Because of county ownership?
Even if it were privately owned, I guess it would have to be a conversation or discussion with your taxing authority to find out, I mean, do they customarily tax towers?
Private towers are taxed, yes. Yes, they are. It's part of the Iowa code that based on construction costs. And there's different ways of doing the assessment. Primarily, they do it by construction cost. It's 427A1. It explains what property taxes are taxed, and under Section K, it has transmission towers and antennas, not part of a household system. And we do have towers in the county. For example, our radio station, Carroll Broadcasting, has towers. They are taxed commercial rate.
Is there a competitor as well? In the U.S. Cellular?
I didn't check that one, but I'm sure they are.
Any idea that U.S. Cellular would be probably a good comparison, the one that sets over on the west side of town, adjacent to the highway? I'm just curious what sort of amount we are looking at. I don't think, and I'm not an attorney, but I think it's going to be difficult for them to pay property tax on something that they don't own, and I wonder if maybe it's easier just to write a separate payment or increase the rent to account for what that amount would be. If they don't own it, they shouldn't be taxed for it.
When you say they, are you referring to Verizon or U.S. Cellular?
I'm sorry, regarding our proposal and Verizon.
Okay. But you deed this over to the county after 10 years, is that correct?
No, we deed it over to the county immediately upon completion.
Right. The other issue that our county attorney brought up, I should probably have him explain, but it was subrogation, and he had some issues. He basically thought we needed to check that over with our insurance company first. And another thought was we've got some agreements for some current users, the county, and we may want something written in for future users. What's our possibility on those two issues?
The subrogation, obviously your attorney will have to check with that. I know with regard to Crawford County, the language that appears here was acceptable, agreed to and signed off on by them. So I would imagine from county, municipality to municipality that you're probably okay with that. I'm not sure I understand the question regarding current and future users.
Okay, currently we're allowing some county equipment to hang on the tower. And what if we want some other equipment on there in the future as a county? We're not planning on subleasing it or anything.
No, since you will be taking ownership of the structure upon its completion, then it's available to you to use as you see fit, so long as there is space and structural capacity in that tower, which we're certainly over designing it to accommodate future and additional use later on.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my I only have one more comment, and just a slight correction on Exhibit D. You have our location on Broadway and Denison. You carried over the description from the Crawford County facility over there. So that's just a correction you need to make on Exhibit D.
Fair enough. Thank you for catching that.
All right. That's my comments. Okay.
Nathan, Marty Ganser, one question was brought up as far as the lifespan of this new tower. What is the lifespan of the monopole tower?
I think it's really difficult to pinpoint that.
Or estimated approximate lifespan?
Probably 40 or 50 years.
Okay.
Not a question I've ever been asked before, so I would, I might be able to scare up an expert or two that might be able to speak to that a little more with a little more accuracy.
Okay. It's just a question that was brought up.
One other, Mark Beardmore again, Nathan, you in our previous meeting, you had discussed that you would be responsible for removing the old tower. That might have some value to it. Do you see to that is the county's property, either to dispose of or to have you dispose of, or do you see that as Verizon's property at that point?
It all depends on what you would like for us to do. If we're responsible for removing it from the property, it will simply be scrapped. You know, for its value as scrap metal, it will not be reused as a tower structure by Verizon. If the county wants to maintain ownership and potentially benefit from any sort of scrap value, we can make arrangements just to have it stacked and laid on the yard for you folks to remove it and obtain the salvage value for it. If you're planning to potentially reuse the tower as a tower structure, then we would ask probably just include some sort of language that we're taking no responsibility for that. That structure is very outdated, and I think that nobody would recommend it be reused as a tower structure.
Right. Okay, so something we just might want to make a decision beforehand, though, just for clarity. You know, whether or not you guys haul it away or whether or not we plan to.
And we can certainly do it either way.
But you're still planning on the, you know, I would say deconstruction of it, though, correct? The removal.
That is correct.
Okay.
Just one other minor issue. With regards to electricity, the contract says we shall provide electricity, and if we put in a sub-meter, you would pay the electric bill. I assume we want to put in a sub-meter, and I would just ask you to do that because it just makes more sense that as you're doing the construction process to do it at that time as opposed to get it all done and then have us come back and put in a sub-meter to get the electricity on your tap. Does that sound reasonable?
It is, and it'll be easy for us to revise that language. We'll actually specify that it will be separately metered. The work that we're doing with Mid-American Energy, they will end up sending the electricity bill for Verizon's consumption directly to Verizon. So there should be, you know, there's no cost or administrative burden to the county with it being set up that way.
Thank you.
Okay, very well. Anything else? Okay, very well. Go ahead, Neil.
As far as some of our questions, of course you need to check with some of your people as far as getting back to us. What do you think your schedule is on returning an answer to some of our questions that we had today?
Well, I think I can get that back to you. Those that remain unanswered, I can certainly have back to you this week.
Okay, fair enough, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, so you want to just place it on next Monday's agenda then? Yep, that's what we'll do. All right, Nathan, very well. Anything else? John? John Wharton has a few comments, County Attorney.
Just so everyone's on the same page, when the time comes to consider this proposal, the board will need to have a public hearing, because you're entering into a lease more than 3 years. And you would, of course, consider any competing proposals or any other ideas.
That's right. Thank you, John.
We'll have to apply publication rules so that public hearing.
Okay.
Takes some time too.
Very well, so the process would be, let's just say, on a positive tone, we would want to move forward with the agreement next Monday. We would not be doing so until after a public hearing would be held. Okay. Okay. Thanks for bringing that up. I would have missed that.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, anything else? Looks like that pretty much wraps it up. You're going to, as far as we have a takeaway from this, is you're going to talk to your people about restructuring the payment schedule, and then you plan to follow back up with Marty before next Monday, or do you want to just inform us of that this coming Monday?
I'll try and get the information to Marty prior to Monday's meeting. And the only other thing I think I could benefit from in being able to determine or arrive at a solution with Verizon would be with regard to the personal property tax on the tower structure. If there's some way, is that a city tax basis that you're referring to, or is it the state that's taxing that? I'm just trying to let them know what potential additional charges we may need to build into the lease to account or accommodate for that.
Our auditor just stepped out. She's going to go visit with the assessor. I don't want to predict anything, but I think it would be all taxing authorities.
It would be roughly $20 per thousand on the construction cost.
No state. It would be city, county, schools, and a couple other smaller ones.
I think the one out there.
But we'll find out here.
I should have that here too.
Yeah, the one out there.
The county assessor would make that assessment, and she does assess the US side.
Yeah, the county assessor would make that assessment, and the U.S. cellular tower is taxable. Would you presume, Bill, that it would be all taxing authorities within the city of Carroll? You know, the three big, and then...
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody that has taxing authority would be
Right.
part of that consolidated tax rate.
This is John Worden, the county attorney. I don't mean to speak for the assessor, but as I understand the assessment process, because the tower would be owned by Carroll County, if there is an assessment that the assessor could consider, and other than de minimis use by private lessees, and there would be some percentage assessment, no different than our hospital, for example, which rents out part of their building to private doctors, things like that. So at some point, someone might need to know an engineering quality analysis of the percentage of the tower that's being used by these private entities versus the percentage of the tower value being used by these government entities. So it would behoove you to have that analysis available for the assessor, because I believe that as I've surveyed around, and I think over in Crawford County, for example, there is a tower, a fire department tower that is being partially assessed. And that's what you might well be looking at here. So rather than just hide that ball, I thought I'd bring it up today and let you know how I think that process is going to pan out. Any questions about that?
No, and I can certainly appreciate that formula being used as a derivative for a tax basis, and it will be rather perfunctory for us to make a request of the tower manufacturer to break out the loading by percentage on the tower, and it would give you a precise figure as to how much percent of the tower Verizon, the capacity that they're utilizing. So that's something I would go ahead and request of the tower manufacturer today.
Very good.
And Marty, one last item, I did hear from the gentleman that runs or handles your radio equipment out there. He did give me a call last week. He was going to be working on providing for us antenna and line information. And if you wouldn't mind, just give me a call back after we're done. I'd like to chat with you offline, because certainly I need that information, particularly with coming up with the percentage capacity used by Verizon on the tower.
Okay, I will visit with Doug on that after the meeting, and then I'll get back with you on that then, Nathan.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, very good. I think we're all on the same page. Nathan, thank you so much for your time, and we'll look forward to visiting with you next Monday.
Very good.
All right, thanks, Nathan. Have a great week.
Yes, you as well.
Yep, bye for now.